If anyone has the link, please give it up in the chat. I'm not finding it for some reason. To the book.
What link are you looking for?
The book, Ron, the book. Never mind. Okay. Good morning and good happy Saturday, everyone. Let me get my systems up. Give me just a moment, please. All right. There's a PDF. Here's the Zoom. Hmm. There you are, Zoom. Sorry about that, people. Just a second.
No worries. Great morning.
Oh,
Happy Saturday, everyone. Great to have you all here. This is Fernando from Los Angeles, California, introducing our reader of the morning, Mr. Jameson Rowe. We're actually in the cash flow quadrant, and we're going to get started shortly. So if you can let us know where you're connecting from, microphones are open. You can open your camera. We are already live in Diversified Cash Flow, our channel in YouTube. So good morning, everyone. Thanks again, Jameson.
thanks again, Fernando, and thank you so much for just being the backbone of our leadership and our ability to have great content. Because a lot of times we just need this little boost of financial intelligence. Is exactly what Robert Kiyosaki, the author of the book, The Cash Flow Quadrant, of course, take my background off, you can see it a little better. And his whole concept is about that. So if we have anybody that wants to say hi this morning, go ahead, and then we'll carry on.
Good morning, Jameson. Good morning, everyone. How are you doing?
Amazing. Yourself?
Very well, very well. I sent it to you the email with the PDF if you wanna open it.
Oh,
Yes,
okay,
I
yeah.
just sent it to you. If you have it, that's all right.
Yes, I already
Elisa,
have that. I want to put it in the link in the chat, please. That's what I was looking for.
Okay, I'm gonna do that. Okay, great.
Yeah. I'm going to get that pulled up right now. Let's see. Go ahead and share. Huh. Okay, let me know when you can see it. Yep, it looks like it's up. Can you
I
see?
can see it.
Perfect. All right, I'm going to
yes.
pull it over to the side a little bit for myself so I can orient. So I'm looking at the camera. Okay. Uh, so we're on the end of chapter 4, page 78 is when where we were left off. I want to go back to 77, and there's a few more pages I want to go back to that I've made notes in, but we're gonna finish off the chapter, and then we'll go into a few notes that I have. Let me get back to 78. Okay. All right. So at the top of page 77, which we're reading from right now through my the PDF. So a choice of paths. The preceding patterns are the different financial paths people can choose. Unfortunately, most people choose the path of job security. When the economy starts wobbling, they cling ever more desperately to job security and wind up spending their lives pursuing it. At a minimum, I recommend becoming educated in financial security, which, excuse me, yes, which is feeding confidently to your job. I'm going to start that over again. At a minimum, I recommend becoming educated in financial security, which is feeling confident about your job, and feeling confident about your ability to invest in good and bad times. A big secret is that true investors make more money in bad markets. They make their money because the non-investors are panicking and selling when they should be buying. I'm not afraid of the possible coming economic changes because change means wealth is being transferred. I'll make a little pause there. I'm going to go back to something that um, Robert Kiyosaki was talking about earlier in chapter 2. Chapter 2, he's talking about how his poor dad was trying to make an economic change, and a rich dad was talking to him about it. So Rich Dad responded, but how we respond to those differences in in income and different mindsets is is what causes us to remain in one quadrant or another. When your dad tried to cross over from the E quadrant to the B quadrant, intellectually he could understand the process, but he couldn't handle it emotionally. When things didn't go smoothly, he began to lose money and he did not know what to do to solve the problems. So he went back to the quadrant that he felt most comfortable in. And then, even though we're all human beings, said Rich Dad, when it comes to money and the emotions attached to money, we all respond differently. And that's why I want to go back to that, is because you talk about the emotional part of it, where how money and emotions are tied together and how they can definitely skew our mindset. So your boss cannot make you rich. A friend of mine sold his company and on the day of the sale put more than 15 million into his bank account. Wow. That's a lot of cash to be sitting in a bank account. On the other hand, his employees had to look for new jobs. At a farewell party, which was filled with tears, there were also undercurrents of extreme anger and resentment. Although he paid them well for years, most were financially no better off than their last day of work than they were on their first day of work. Wait a minute, that can't be true. Many people realized that the owner of the company had become rich while they spent all those years collecting their paychecks and paying bills. The reality is that your boss's job is not to make you rich. That's not your boss's job or the government or anybody else's. Your boss's job is to make sure you get a paycheck. Payroll, that's what their job is, and some benefits. It's your job to become rich if you want to. I'll read that again. It's your job. The job has come to you now to become rich if you want to. And that job begins the moment you receive your paycheck. If you have poor money management skills, then all the money in the world won't save you. If you budget your money wisely and learn about either the B or I quadrant, then you're on your own path to great personal fortune and, most importantly, freedom. My rich dad used to say to his son and me that the only difference between a rich person and a poor person is what they do with their spare time. I agree with that statement. I realize that people are busier than ever before, and free time is more and more precious. Yet I believe that if you're going to be busy anyway, be busy on both sides of the cash flow quadrant. If you do that, you will have a better chance of eventually finding more free time and more financial freedom, which everyone's pursuing is free time and financial freedom. That's like even someone that's making a lot of money a lot of times as a S or as an E, either one, employee or a self-employed person, they can make a lot of money, but they sacrifice their time, their family, and their freedom. When that work, when at work, work hard. But remember that what you do after work with your paycheck and your spare time will determine your future. If you work hard on the left side, you'll work hard forever. If you work hard on the right side, you'll have a chance of finding freedom. The path I recommend. I am often asked by people in the E and S quadrants, what would you recommend? I recommend the same path my rich dad recommended to me, the, the same path that people like Ross Perot and Bill Gates took. The path looks like this. So what he's portraying is the E quadrant, or the employee, saves up extra money and then invests in the B quadrant. The S, self-employed, does the same thing. They create money by work, and then they build up available cash flow, and then they invest in businesses. And then once the business is take off and they start generating a profit, then invest in assets, in investments. Occasionally, people reply, but I'd rather be an investor. To which I say, then go to the I quadrant if you have plenty of money and lots of time. Go straight to the I quadrant. But if you don't have the abundance of time and money, the path my rich dad recommended is safer. I's invest in B's. In most cases, people don't have the abundance of time and money so they can ask another question. Why do you recommend the B quadrant first? This discussion usually takes an hour or so, but I'll summarize my reasons in the next few lines. One, experience and education. If you are first successful as a B, you'll have a better chance of developing into a powerful I. If you first develop a solid business sense, you can become a better investor. You'll be better able to identify other good Bs. True investors invest in successful Bs with stable business systems. Key word is their business systems, stability. It's risky to invest in an E or S who doesn't know the difference between a system and a product, or who lacks excellent leadership skills. Two, cash flow. If you have a business that is up and running, you then should have the free time and the cash flow to support the ups and downs of the I quadrant. And by the way, we're talking about a big business, like 500 employees with a full management team, that you can literally walk away from for a year and it'll be better. That's the B business we're talking about, not the S, but the B type business. Many times I meet people from the E and S quadrants who are so tight on cash that they can't afford to take any kind of financial loss. One market swing and they're wiped out because they operate financially at the red line. The red line is explained earlier that it's where you literally are paycheck to paycheck, which most of America is. And that's based upon a few other conditions where we spend not to our income. And then beyond that, as Americans, that's a typical pattern. The reality is that investing is capital and knowledge intensive. Sometimes it takes lots of capital and requires a lot of time to gain the necessary knowledge. Many successful investors have lost many times before winning. Successful people know that success is a poor teacher. Learning comes from making mistakes. And in the I quadrant, mistakes cost money. If you lack both knowledge and capital, it's financial suicide to try to become an investor. And we talk about a team here in a little while and why a financial team is critical to this. By developing the skill of becoming a good B first, you'll also be provided the cash flow necessary to help you become a good investor. The business you develop as a B will provide the cash to support you as you gain the education to become a good investor. Once you have gained the knowledge to become a successful investor, you'll understand how I can say it does not always take money to make money. Good news. The good news is that it's easier than ever before to be successful in the B quadrant because of technology, AI, and such. Although it's not as easy as just getting a minimum wage job, the systems are in place for now for more and more people to find financial success as a B, I believe, right? So I wanted to incorporate a couple of ideas really quick, and then I'll open it up. One of the things that Robert Kiyosaki was going over, and I didn't go over earlier, back in page 26 about the emotional part, is I remember Robert Kiyosaki talking about broke versus a poor mindset. And this is a little excerpt from a thing. In Robert Kiyosaki's framework, broke is a temporary financial state, while poor is a mindset. Being broke simply means lacking money at a given moment. And he was at one point when he moved with Kim to, I think it was California, he was broken for a period of time, but he was broke intentionally, meaning he was striving for financial freedom. And in that time frame, he had to live in someone, no, it was Arizona. He had to live in someone's basement because he was living in his car. Kind of crazy, a billionaire in a car, living it out. So being broke simply means lack of money at the given moment, while while a poor mindset is characterized by limiting beliefs, fear of risk, and a focus on short-term survival, which can lead to long-term financial struggles. Kiyosaki emphasizes that shifting your mindset is crucial for overcoming financial limitations. And one of the definitions or the characteristics of a poor mindset is scarcity mentality, fixed mindset, victim mentality, short-term financial focus, and risk adverse. And I won't read all the things beyond that. So I'll leave that tidbit for the next time. So let's open it up and see if anybody's out there that wants to share.
Jameson, great read.
Thank you.
Taking a lot of notes as always. Appreciate it. It's amazing to see what our minds can do, right? The difference between broke and poor. Um, if I go back to where I came from, over there in our country, back in the day, people used to work hard just to live a broke life because there was no opportunity of improvement. The economy was so bad, and that's the reason why we landed here in America. No matter how hard my dad worked, we were always, financially broke. The mentality of being broke it's a temporary situation. Is how I feel it, like a broken car, right? You can fix it up. But the poor mentality is we become victims of our circumstances, and we're not able to overcome, not unless we shift gears mentally from feeling victimized about circumstances. And I think that's one of the areas that a lot of us need to, to really, really understand how we think, how we feel about money. And this brings me to emotional intelligence. So I think when you become emotional intelligent, you start to educate your mindset and your feelings to be able to start to learn from how an employee thinks and how a self-employee thinks. And that's basically what I experienced my first young years when I was a plumber, working too many hours for so little money. I said I had to figure out a way to be able to make more money. But I didn't know that there was other ways like the big quadrant, right, which is a business and investing. I used to think, Jameson, that working harder would make me more money. But when I stopped working, I couldn't have a way to have money be generated for me. I was saving in my little bank account when I was young, right? And I couldn't get out of that rat race. The harder I work, the more money I thought I was going to be able to make. But when I figured out the B quadrant, it was when I was 24 years young. I saw, I heard a story of a gentleman and his wife, how successful they were. And then I started to learn the reason why they had become so successful is because they had a huge network. So I learned the formula of network, and I used to see I was a part of that network, how people would think as we would go in there. So long story short, it took me 5 years to figure out the formula for success on growing networks. So within a 5 year time frame, Jameson, it took me 5 years to be able to get 50 people licensed on my team. 50. When I got 50 people licensed on my team, I was able to experience what we call an override income. Okay, so that override income was more exciting than the personal income I would generate. And I learned. I said, this is basically what he always used to say. My mentor is, the bigger your network, the bigger your net worth. One thing I didn't learn was to become an investor. I invested in the wrong stuff. I bought furniture for my office, hired 3, 4 secretaries. So by the time things were not really working because we were trying to impress folks, I got in problem with taxes because I didn't know any better until I learned the hard way to go back to the S quadrant and the E quadrant. I go, wait a minute, what's going on? You make so much money, and all of a sudden you go back to the E and S quadrant. So 5 years of poverty again, but I was broke. I was not poor. Before I was poor when I couldn't figure things out. I didn't know how to change my mindset. So long story short, 5 years of going back to a situation that made me very uncomfortable. I found another business after 5 years of not having anything anymore and build a network and my net worth that allowed me to invest money. It took me some time to figure the investment part, which is having assets working for you. So now I know the difference between the ES quadrant because I learned the hard way on the B quadrant that you have to move eventually to the I quadrant so you can have both worlds working for you. It's all I wanted to share, Jameson. Thank you.
Well, Fernando, that was a great summary of what you went through and like what it takes, because you went from being in El Salvador and wanting better economic opportunity because there was no economic opportunity, or it was very suppressed there. And then taking it from that and having that desire, it talks about, what is that, the Think and Grow Rich, to having that burning desire to go more, and then coming here and then doing what everybody else was doing, which was working hard to try to make money. And then, great, I have money, but then it's like, if you don't have the financial intelligence, like you talked about in your spare time, you work hard, but when your spare time, you make your wealth. You weren't taught that, and no one teaches us that. So that's what we're learning this from here. And then you went on to there was something, I'm going to ask you a question in a minute. Like, there was something that you saw that you went, wait a minute, there's the path. Like, there's that something. I want that, the desire to grow more, like time freedom, because you said you were working for 70 hours, I believe. And you wanted that time freedom, you wanted the financial freedom and the time freedom, and then you went through that path and you went down that road, and then you weren't aware of all the components. You didn't have a good financial team, as I heard, to give you the advice. You needed the advice to be able to know when you were going to come into problems. You just hit those things, but that's exactly what they're talking about. Most really great investors and entrepreneurs, they hit those failure points and they do a pivot, and once they get their mind right, or they see another opportunity, they see another way of solving that challenge. So basically, entrepreneurs are going through and hitting an obstacle and solving it, hitting an obstacle and solving. And that's exactly what you just said. You hit obstacles first in your country. You said, I need to change. You went there. You gained you found something, you gained success, and you hit an obstacle. You pivoted, went back and found it again. So you just kept on going. You kept that push from when you were young all the way to today, and now being a successful entrepreneur a couple times over. You've compounded that success, even though it might not be a financial success that you pulled with you, but you brought, like, what does it say? If you take a billionaire and you took all their money away and you drop them in the middle of anywhere, they'll be a billionaire again, because they have the financial intelligence. They've gained all that information and the network and the team that they have around them. That's what makes them a billionaire, not the money. It's the team, the structure, the systems, their intelligence. So I want to ask you a question really quick, Fernando. What was it that you first saw that made you want to grow to like that was it?
Well, it always goes back to generational wealth, right? And being an example for your kids. So anytime that I hit problems, I had to go back to my why. and reframe my mindset that I knew that if I wasn't going to change, things were not going to change. So that got me back in track. And it does up until this point. It gets me back in track. Yes, we do have, investments, but now we have a business that we're rebuilding. So I know the formula that it takes about 5 years to create your mind frame and to solidify your network. So you have to pay a price for a 5-year time frame to be able to be the example of the people you want to attract. Once you start to disappear from the audience and you let your leaders start to do the work, their testimonies and their stories is what they're able to share. So now I can feel at ease and say, okay, I don't have to take care of my baby anymore. They're growing up kids here. They're making, their financial wealth. So now I move to the sidelines and let them perform. So meanwhile, that is not happening, Jameson. We gotta be in the game and grind because the more you're able to develop your network, to be able to build the strength, the quicker you can start to walk away and let them run on their own. And all you do basically is become a storyteller over your entire network. Now you get your network excited, making money. Now you're able to use your money that you're making, that you're overriding, into investing in precious metals, whatever we have right now with our platform. So we're not there yet. We're still building and grinding. That's why we show up to everything. You got to show up to everything because you expect your people to show up. And that's why, I participate in every event. And I did that. Every 5 years that I did that, my businesses have taken off. All right. So I hope that answered your question, James.
It did. And what I think I heard something very specific is the testimonies. It was hearing like when you go to the meetings, the presentations, you hear the success stories, and that gets your emotions like, yeah, that might be my that might be the it. So one other thing I want to pull out from page 25 back here is the core differences. And a lot of times you can hear like in the language and the words. So he talks about listening. One of the ways you can tell if you're an ESP or I. Yes.
I didn't mean to cut you. Elisa has got her hand up. I don't know if you've seen that.
Okay, go ahead, Lisa.
Good morning, good morning. How are you, Jameson? Thank you so much. And I want to say thank you because you're a great leader, and thank you for helping me last Saturday practicing the presentation. I love the time that we spent together learning and understanding each other, how to work together and doing the conversation, and we will do it. Okay, not today, but maybe in another Saturday. Okay, but Jameson, going back to the reading club, and I want to thank you because you are doing a great job. Every time you read, it's something very important that you always share with us. And I understand because the mentality. I believe that as an entrepreneur, the first you were saying obstacle. The first obstacle that we face is our mentality. I think that most of us, I'm not sure, but I think that most of us start out with a poor mindset. And as we start reading, because they're reading, and when we start connecting with people that they have, maybe they had one, in certain time, a broke mentality, but they have a great mindset, a rich mindset. And we start to transform our mentality to poor mentality to rich mentality. And it doesn't matter, like Fernando said, right? I was in that situation where I was in a broke mindset, but not poor anymore. And I love that. And that's why it's very important who I am listening to, who I am talking to, right? That is very important. What are the people around me? And that's why I believe I am a great person, and I'm going to be great every day because of the people that I'm surrounded, right? That's why it's very important. And this activity, the reading club, is the activity that I love because we can see transformation individually. Each of us, we can say, right, I am transforming myself, right, to be better, to be better. And I want to say thank you because I'm practicing my English over here. I'm practicing with the leaders that I'm working with. And thank you so much for the opportunity because you are helping me so much. And you let me believe that I can do everything that is in my mind. And thank you so much, Jameson. Thank you.
Well, Lisa, you're definitely one of the 5 people I want to surround myself with as being the average of who I am, because you're striving, you're a great leader, you're going for it, you're helping a lot of people. And it's not only that, it's the positive mindset. Positive mindsets look for opportunities. They look forward, they look at what's possible, and they're open to possibilities.
Yes.
That is very critical, because when you're open to possibilities and then you have the financial intelligence of those you surround yourself with, you can take advantage of opportunities and grow into a better and better place, and then teach that to your family, so that way you can surround yourself with family members that also have that same, and not only that, it's the support of your close friends, because
Yes.
if they pull you up, or do they push you, they wallow in each other's misery, you know.
I know.
There are
Thank you.
differences.
Great. No, great, Jameson. And you are a great, great person and a leader. And I learned so much from you. And last Saturday, we spent more time and few days, right? We were practicing and, learning. I was learning a lot. And I am a student. Okay. And thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. I got to keep my eye on the time. I wasn't doing that. Okay. Oh, I was want to mention one thing real quick before I catch into the chapter 5. And I think I'm mentioning back this in a minute. It's coming back. I might as well put it out right now. So one of the things I really like that Robert Kiyosaki in the Cash Flow Quadrant, page 25, was talking about the core differences of people. And we've read other books about the colors of different people, green, blue, yellow, and red, and how their personalities can be expressed through the words they say, the things they do, and like their emotional makeup. And one of the things I like about this, because you can almost tell where someone's at, like in their testimonials, in the words they speak, and how they see the world through the eyes of their type of quadrant. So it's one of the core differences. So how do I tell if people are an ESB or I without knowing much about them? One of the ways is by listening to their words. So let's see. Okay. Rich Dad always explained to me that the ability to bring smart people together and work as a team was one of his primary skills. And we'll go over that in a minute. So one of the skills was to get beyond the surface of a person and gaze into their core. Rich Dad used to say, if I listen to a person's words, and I will begin to see and feel their souls. So I learned to listen not so much for words, but for core values, the values that my rich dad said came from their souls. So listening back to the broke mindset, poor mindset, and then successful mindset, and then like ultra successful mindset, definitely you can hear it in their words. And if you slow down and pay attention to the words, they definitely come in that way. So let's continue on back up to the PDF, get my phone out of the way, and advance PDF to the next. There we go. Go back to the reader mode. All right. Changed modes on me. Let's see. It's okay. Anyone else out there, by the way, before I continue on? Okay. Just raise your hand next time and we'll get to you. Okay, chapter 4. All right. 3 kinds of business systems. Your goal is to own a system and to have people work that system for you. In moving to the B quadrant, remember that your goal is to own a system and to have people work that system for you. You can develop the business systems yourself, or you can look for a system to purchase. Think of a system as a bridge that will allow you to cross safely from the left side of the cash flow quadrant to the right side. It's your bridge to financial freedom. There are 3 main types of business systems commonly used in today. They are 1, traditional C corporations, where you develop your own system. 2, franchises, where you buy an existing system. And 3, network marketing, where you buy into and become a part of an existing system. Each business system has its strengths and weaknesses, yet each ultimately does the same thing. If operated properly, each system will provide a steady stream of income without much physical effort on the part of the owner once it's up and running. The problem is getting it up and running. And by the way, going back to one of the very first stories of the cash flow quadrant book was buckets or pipelines, and that was a problem of a town that needed water, and he was trying to and explaining the difference and giving an example of difference in an E or an S and a B or an I. And I think I have a couple of things to say about that in a minute too. In 1985, when people asked him and me why we were homeless, we simply said we were building a business system. There it is. I found it. It was a business system that was a hybrid of traditional C corporations and a franchise. As stated before, the B quadrant requires knowledge of both systems and people. Our decision to develop our own system meant a lot of hard work. I had taken this route before and my company had failed. He built a Velcro wallet company, like the Velcro wallets. Although it was successful for years, it suddenly went broke in its 5th year. When success came to us, we weren't ready with an adequate system. Our system began to break down even though we had hardworking people. We felt like we were on a good-sized yacht that had sprung a leak in a location we could not determine. Those leaks. You may lose 2 or 3 companies. When I was in high school, my rich dad told Mike and me that he had nearly lost a company when he was in his 20s. That was the best and worst experience of my life, he said. As much as I hated it, I learned more by repairing it and eventually turning it into a huge success. Knowing that I was contemplating starting my own company, Rich Dad said to me, you may lose 2 or 3 companies before you build a successful one that lasts. Fernando just talked about that just a minute ago. He was training Mike to take over his empire. But because my dad was a government employee, Robert's dad, I wasn't going to inherit an empire. I had to build my own. Success is a poor teacher. Success is a poor teacher, Rich Dad always said. We learn the most about ourselves when we fail, so don't be afraid of failing. Failing is part of the process of success. You can't have success without failure. Maybe it was a self-fulfilling prophecy, but in 1984, my 3rd company went down. I had made millions and lost millions, and I was starting all over again when I met Kim. The reason I know she didn't marry me for my money was because I didn't have any. When I told her what I was going to do, build a company number 4, she didn't back away. So apparently she was an entrepreneur too, right from the get-go. I will build it with you, was her reply, and she was true to her word. Although with another partner, we built a business system with 11 offices worldwide that generated income regardless of whether we worked or not. That was a B business. Building it from nothing to 11 offices took 5 years of blood, sweat, and tears, but it worked. Both dads were happy for me and sincerely congratulated me. The hard part, Mike often said to me, I'll never know if I can do what you or my dad did. The system was handed to me. All I had to do was learn how to run it. It's more like a franchise. I'm certain he could have developed his own successful system because he learned well from his dad, but I understand his doubt. The hard thing about building a company from scratch is that you have two big variables, the system and the people building the system. If both the people and the system are leaky, the chances for failure are great. Sometimes it's hard to know whether the problem is the person or the system that is failing. Before franchises, when my rich dad began teaching me about becoming a B, there was only one kind of business, big business, a major corporation that usually dominated the town. In our town in Hawaii, it was the sugar plantation that controlled virtually everything, including other big businesses. So there were big business and not mom and pop S type businesses with little in between. Working at the top levels of those big sugar companies wasn't a realistic goal for people like Rich Dad and me. Minorities such as the Japanese, Chinese, Hawaiians worked in the fields, but they were never allowed to in the boardroom. So Rich Dad learned everything he knew simply by trial and error as a true entrepreneur. As I started high school, we began to hear about the thing called franchises, but none had come to our little town. We hadn't yet heard about McDonald's, Kentucky Fried Chicken, Taco Bell. They weren't part of our vocabulary while I was studying with Rich Dad. When we did hear rumors about them, we heard that they were illegal, fraudulent, scams, and dangerous. Henceforth, the poor mindset, the poor would think this way, definitely. And then the S's would also think this way because they didn't have enough financial intelligence or didn't surround themselves with people that knew where the opportunity was. They saw the fear and not the opportunity. Rather than believe the rumors, Rich Dad flew to California to check out franchises for himself. See, when he returned, all he said was franchises are the wave of the future. He definitely probably had a team that would give them the advice. And back in the day, this was back in the 70s, I believe, 60s or 70s. So this is long before the internet, long before, I mean, he's talking about faxes still. They're probably doing faxathons. And he bought the rights of two of them. So Rich Dad bought the rights to two franchises in Hawaii, like the first ones in Hawaii. Like he cornered the market. His wealth skyrocketed as the idea of franchises caught on, and he began selling his rights, franchising rights. He had the rights to sell, like he's like Ray Kroc selling rights of franchises. That's how early he got in to other people, so he could have the chance of building, so they could have the chance of building their own business. When I asked him if I should buy one of them, he simply said, no, you've come this far in learning how to build your own business system. Don't stop now. Franchisees are for people who don't want to build or don't know how to build their own system. Besides, you don't have the $250,000 it takes to buy a franchise from me. One of the things that Rich Dad was teaching Robert and Mike was literally how to understand what a business is, how it functions. He sat with Rich Dad for hours and days just listening to Rich Dad talk to his team and his employees and learn what it takes to build and generate income and make money, and not to just take over a system and try to work a system by itself. He built the system. It's hard to imagine today a city without a McDonald's, Burger King, Pizza Hut on every corner. Yet there was a time not too long ago when they didn't even exist. How to learn to become a bee. The way I learned to become a bee was by being an apprentice to my rich dad. His son and I were both each learning to be bees, and that is the way many people learn. It's called on-the-job training. Oh, here it is. This is the way many closely held family empires are passed on from generation to generation. And by the way, I will be coming up with more information about a family office. And this is how generational wealth is passed on and cultivated for generations. And that's a hint right there of that family office. And I'll talk more about that in upcoming timeframes. The problem is that too many people are privileged or lucky enough to learn the behind the scenes aspect of becoming a bee. There's this not word, sorry. The problem is that not too many people are privileged or lucky enough to learn the behind the scenes aspect of becoming a bee. Most corporate management training programs are just that. The company only trains you to be a manager. Few teach what it takes to be a bee. And that goes with many universities, college courses, and it's by design, they're training us to work the business that exists. Often people get stuck in the S quadrant on their journey to the B quadrant. This happens primarily because they don't develop a strong enough system and end up becoming an integral part of the system. Successful bees develop a system that will run without their involvement. Let me see where we're at. I'll quickly read through this and then we'll open it up for questions. There are 3 ways you can make it to the B side quickly. Find a mentor. Rich Dad was my mentor. A mentor is someone who has already done what you want to do and is successful at doing it. Don't find an advisor. An advisor is someone who tells you how to do it, but may not have personally done it. Most advisors are in the S quadrant. The world is filled with S's trying to tell you how to be a B or an I. My rich dad was my mentor, not an advisor. One of the biggest tips that Rich Dad gave me was this: be careful of the advice you take. While you must keep your mind open, always be aware of the quadrant and the advice it's coming from. Back to the words they say. Listen carefully to their words. My rich dad taught me about systems and how to be a leader of people, not a manager of people. Keyword leader of people. Managers often see their subordinates as inferiors. Leaders must direct people who are often smarter. And one of the key things about a leader is they're developing more leaders. Leaders develop leaders. They don't develop employees, they develop leaders, because a leader wants to delegate tasks to competent, efficient, and effective team members, because then they can take on bigger challenges and bigger risks. A traditional way of learning about systems is getting your MBA from prestigious schools and then getting a fast track job that takes you up the corporate ladder. An MBA is important because you learn the basis of accounting and the financial numbers related to systems of business. Yet an MBA doesn't mean that you're competent to run all the systems that ultimately make up a complete business system. To learn about all the systems necessary in a big company, you'll need to spend 10 to 15 years there and learn all the different aspects of the business. You should then be prepared to leave and start your own company. Working for a successful major corporation is like being paid by your mentor. Even with a mentor and/or years of experience, this first method is labor intensive. Creating your own system requires a lot of trial and error, upfront legal costs, and paperwork. All of this occurs at the same time you're trying to develop your people. 2, buy a franchise. Another way of learning about systems is to buy a franchise. When you buy a franchise, you're buying a tried and proven operating system. By buying the franchise system, instead of trying to create your own system, you can focus on developing your people. buying systems removes one big variable when you're learning how to be a B. Many banks will loan money for a franchise, but not for a small startup business, because they recognize the importance of a system and how starting with a good system lowers the risk. A word of caution: franchises are hard for people with an S quadrant mentality who want to do their own thing. If you buy a franchise system, be an E. Just do it exactly the way they tell you to do it. Nothing is more tragic than a courtroom fights between franchisees and franchisors. The fights happen because the people who buy the system really want to do it their way, not the way the person who created the system wants it done. If you want to do your own thing, then do it after you've mastered both systems and people. My highly educated dad failed even though he had bought a famous ice cream franchise. Although the system was excellent, the business still failed. In my opinion, the franchise failed because his partners were all E's and S's who didn't know what to do when things started to go bad and didn't ask for support from the parent company. In the end, the partners fought among themselves and the business went down. They forgot that B a true B is more than systems. It's also dependent on good people to operate the system. Okay, I'm going to stop there. So we're at the bottom of page 86. I wanted to include one more thing that I saw in here. And a couple of things. There's times in this book that we mentioned how the rules have changed as far regarding money, and why being an employee is an S is very risky, because starting from the foundation of the country, all these rules have been changing. I'm going to go over a couple of those rules really quick and why being an S and an I is so risky these days, and it has been forever. So back in 1913, before that, there was no tax. There was taxes levied for different things, the Civil War, different things, but the country, USA, did not have tax. 1913, they ratified, or they granted the income tax. The income tax was supposed to be just for the rich, but with the tax system, as you'll find out in our going over this process, one of the things I want to go back over on the tax system, the taxes are a way of the government to incentivize businesses to invest. So they give them breaks. They give them breaks for hiring employees. They loan money through SBA. They loan money through different systems. So they encourage business development. So they give the biggest breaks to the businesses that help to run the economy, and they hire people. So that's why the rich with their business systems and their assets pay the least in taxes. But yet that law was actually meant but who does pay the highest taxes are the self-employed, highly paid self-employed, or the highly paid employees actually support the most of the government because they pay the most of taxes. The other thing is, we went off the gold standard in 1971. When we went off the gold standard, money became a paper asset instead of a tangible asset. Then they changed the rules again. So we went off of pension plans, work a job for 40 years and get a pension and live, comfortably for the rest of your life, getting that time and financial freedom. Well, in 1974, the rules changed again. And they say, what about pensions, like, the government and everything else? Well, we see how the government's pension plan is starting to change too. And then the other thing is Social Security. They started taxing Social Security in 1983 because it was actually failing and they wanted to reboost it. So that was one of the things that the rules of money are changing, and if we don't change and become, and by the way, back to when the government changed the rules about retirement plans, they put most of the burden of the financial intelligence back onto the individual. Before, you had your company and you had different programs that were curated for you. Basically, you just gave them money and they did an amazing job with it, and they guaranteed you a certain, like, you could plan on having a retirement, and it was guaranteed. Now you're lucky if you're in a company more than 3 to 5 years, because everything just keeps rolling. So the ability for a pension or a retirement plan is up to you. And by the way, they changed the rules on those 401ks, Roth IRA. They changed the rules. And by the way, if you change, it costs you money in tax. If they change, you just have to take it. So it's very important to get these lessons from the ESBI, the cash flow quadrant, and get the financial intelligence in order to navigate the system and be better prepared and to be able to have that time and financial freedom. So I'll end it with that. Anyone else out there, raise your hand. Let's hear from you. Get my share off.
Wow. Lots to think about, Jameson. I don't know. Let me see. Oh, there we go. I mean, I'm speechless right now because when the way you broke things down, Jameson, it was so clear. You take your time to really analyze when you read, you don't just read out of the book. You really study the support that you give us on the reading club, and it's education. You give us education, you simplify it, and I was able to take lots of notes in regards to business systems. And this brings me to how grateful I feel about what we have in our hands, which is the network marketing space. So going back to the conversation of the book, the first thing you talk about was the C corporation. The C corporation is going to take a lot, because you got to get all legalized. You got to build it from the ground up, and it's going to take a lot of money, a lot of permits, a lot of this, a lot of that. So the C corporation, it's two responsibilities: money and building a system. And if you're strong enough within the 5 years to make it work, you'll succeed. But if you don't, you'll be a part of the averages, which is out of 100 companies that go into business for themselves and they try to become C corporations within the first 5 years. It's estimated that about 80% go out of business. Only 20% survive. Now, franchise, it's pricey, but what you're buying is a system. It doesn't matter if it sells burgers that are going to kill you, but it's a system that people buy because they're buying the brand name. And that's a comparison to McDonald's. It's the cost is between $1 million all the way up to 2,500,000, depending on the location. So you buy a franchise, you're going to break even the first 5 years, but you're guaranteed to win. Lastly, is network marketing. Little money with a system in place, but a huge amount of effort. And what is the effort that we need to put in network marketing? Is the effort of developing yourself to develop others. And that's the hard work. And that's why, every company has a 5-year game plan. It doesn't matter if it's a C corporation. And, I wish lots of success for people that start a C corporation or a franchise or a network marketing business. It's going to take you a 5-year time frame to be able to mold yourself and build your character to build a team. So I've seen my failures. My first failure was with Primerica Financial Services. I was the problem. My second failure was FES. The company went under, right? And I made the decision that I didn't want to work with that CEO anymore after 13 years. But then we looked and found a better business model that has a better compensation plan with MWR. Okay, so we brought some of our network And it has allowed us to be able to enjoy a 3 years right now already of hard commitment. We still got 2 more years to be able to make things happen. So success is a poor teacher. It sure is. It's going to cost you a lot to be able to build, yourself from the ground up. Success is built through huge failures. And lastly, is the people that you bring to the business. The first ones are the beginners who are hungry, like you, Jameson, and the leaders that are here. You're hungry, but you probably still don't have the experience yet. But you're willing through sacrifice and hard work to transform yourself with commitment and dedication until you become the person that you want to attract. Becoming the person that you want to attract. 2, experience. Hungry people. These are a little harder to find. When we came to MWR, we came with the experience and we're hungry. Okay, but we came with a system in place too. And you gotta, and once you find people like that, it's easy to work with them because they already come with systems. But to attract them, it takes a lot of hard work. Lastly, is you grow your network within a 5-year time frame. And when you have these 2 kind of people in your team, either or. I don't care if we have someone that has no experience but is hungry, they show up to everything. So I'm willing to pay the price with someone like that for a 5-year time frame because we're going to develop tremendous relationships by developing their characters, their abilities to become strong leaders like yourself. Okay. So either you attract people that are already made and have become a success, or build them up. So that's why it takes 5 years to be able to be scouting, looking around, to be able to find good people to build your network. That's what I wanted to bring to the table. It's 31 years in this rodeo, so I know what it takes to make it. You never put your feelings in business. The minute that you put your feelings in business, you lose. You gotta have a balanced mindset and be emotionally intelligent because lots of people are gonna quit. More of the people that you bring, they're gonna quit in bunches, and you gotta be ready. That's why in 5 years, it's gonna take you time to develop yourself and find a good handful of leaders in your team to be able to get to the highest compensation plan. Thanks, Jameson. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Fernando. You covered a good amount of things that I was like, all these ideas popped up really quick. Is I know that our Wednesday presentation with Eric Wilner, he keeps on saying a business in a box. That's that franchise. That's almost like a franchise mentality with with a network marketing twist, because it is network marketing, but the idea is it's a developed, cultivated business in a box. And that's really critical because all you have to do is start and run with it. One of the things that I know that one of my mentors, you talk about him too, is Eric Worre, and he talks about, and let's go back to Ray Kroc and McDonald's, and he asked, well, what kind of business am I in this MBA class? And everybody says, you're in the burger business. And he says, no, I'm in the real estate business. So yes,
Exactly.
he has all those systems, but ultimately his real business, Ray Kroc's business, is the real estate business. What supports that business is the franchisees buying the opportunity to run their business on the real estate. So the burgers aren't the business, the shakes and the shake machines aren't the business. The system is the business, but the real estate underneath is Ray's business. And then why I say that back to Eric Worre is that we're in the network marketing and attraction marketing, and marketing is a people business that you alluded to, and we're just finding it. And the key thing is with building relationships, people skills, helping others, teamwork, personal development. And one of the things is becoming, like you said, becoming the people that you want to attract. And I've heard the word attraction marketing. So the key is there's systems in that. And I wanted to do one more thing that back to that team mentality that I was trying to go back to. And you heard the story of Henry Ford and the lawyer. And basically, he was trying to say that Henry Ford was ignorant. And Henry Ford's reply is, and he was excellent, like Rich Dad, at building teams of people around him, is that he said, I can summon to my aid men who can answer any question I desire to ask concerning the business, keyword, the business which I am endeavoring in my efforts. So he doesn't want to clutter up his mind with useless knowledge. He needs to keep the vision. He needs to keep the company's vision in place and focus on that. And like you are doing, you're keeping the vision. You know what's important. You know where to focus your time and attention, and then how to help us as leaders to where to focus our attention and our time and our efforts on, and keep the main thing the main thing. So thank you very much, Fernando. Anyone else out there?
Yes, Ron here. You did a little synopsis when you really stopped reading about how the change of the rules of money goes and being aware of it. I had never thought about that, even though I've seen it, I've felt it, been involved in it, but then it's being aware of it and creating your knowledge to move forward in a way that benefits you using that awareness. So thank you for that.
You're welcome, Tom. It's kind of like that. Tom, I apologize. Ron. I have a boss named Tom. It's like that story of the pot and the frog. And if if you put the frog in the pot and you just turn on the water, it's comfortable, and they don't recognize the change in temperature. And it's kind of like we don't because we're not taught financial intelligence in schools, or maybe don't surround ourselves with it. We hear it, we complain about it, but we don't understand how it impacts us in our wallet and our opportunity. Like the American dream, go to school, get a good job, prepare for get a house, prepare for retirement. Your house is your biggest asset. They sell us on all these things. There's the smoke show of all the things that we should be paying attention to. Meanwhile, all the rules are changing underneath our feet. Like the sand is shifting underneath our feet, and our foundation's being pulled out from underneath of us. And that's why everybody's living paycheck, primarily living paycheck to paycheck, just paying bills and trying not to be broke at the end of the month. That's basically what's happening, and that's why money's changing so much. That one of the key things with the people that are wealthy and rich, they have assets, they buy assets. That's what he's trying to show in the cash flow quadrant. So anyway, thank you, Ron. Sandra.
Good morning, everyone. Oh my goodness, where do I start? Jameson, you're doing an excellent job. Oh my goodness. And Alicia, oh my goodness. Man, you have blossomed so much. I just want to pour into you because I'm seeing where your English has gotten so much better. I see where you develop you. And that's the key thing Jameson was hitting on so much this morning. I was late getting in, but please forgive me. But when I got in, oh my goodness, he was just he said, your story, tell your story. That actually, helps a lot of people because you don't know what that person's going through. I also was listening to the part is people will start, developing their business and, keep going, don't stop. Basically, even if things are not going your way right now, or so many different changes are happening, you keep the focus. What is the main thing on this? What is your main need? And definitely develop your circle. Find your, the people that, you have people that's suffering out there, but you want somebody that's going to be strong, looking, hungry for a change. I'm in a big event right now with my sister. She's Eastern Stars Shrines, if anybody know what that is. Masons. And I'm, I'm observing, I'm watching. And I actually was talking to this young lady, and I don't know, we stir up a conversation, and she lives in Raleigh, but she's also has multi businesses. You'd be surprised how many people in little different things. They have so many different businesses. And this is what this program mainly about, is find your way, find this is a path for you to develop who you are and to find what will strengthen you. So, I'm growing so much in this company. I'm seeing a lot of changes. Yes, emotions, we all have emotions in life. And, people are going to come and go. It bothers us. Of course it does. I mean, we're only human. But, what is your main thing? What is your why? So we got to find people that's willing and able and to do it. People sign up and some would just, fall off because they never plugged themselves in or because they never saw the different changes it can make for you. So thank you, Jameson. You're doing an excellent job. Oh my goodness. I just hear, every time I listen to you, I be like, wow. I seen so much development in you, even with you, because before you was so quiet. I think you never really said anything too much. I didn't see the double glasses on this morning too much, but you're doing great. And thank you for everybody. Fernando, you're awesome as always. Dr. Parker, man, I tell you, you keep me going. You keep me going. You just so, you always pour into us and, me and Slim. So we're grateful for everybody. Thank you.
Wow, Cassandra, it's so wonderful to hear your story and what you're going through, and you're definitely one of the ones I listen to because it inspires me to strive harder. Because if I get down or I get in a rut or someone says no and it puts me off into a spin, I just remember stories of overcoming, like Fernando's stories of overcoming, other people's stories of overcoming. And it really says, well, wait a minute, this is just a temporary. I'm temporarily broke in a broke mindset, not a poor. So I either choose to go down the poor mindset or the survival mode, like this is a bad thing, or like, you know what, that's just temporary. I think what was our book? No, like loving the word no, as it were. And the other thing, I love that you're like going out there, you're at events and you're listening to people. And one of the things that's clear is that we're getting more into a gig economy. We're going backwards, like back to the beginning of our country. There were a lot of shopkeepers, a lot of entrepreneurs. Our country was built on the backs of entrepreneurs. And as time went forward, the industrial age started taking, those shops started going away. And funny thing, here in Ohio, where I'm living right now, I was surprised coming from Arizona to hear the amount of small shops all over the place, like small mom and pop mortar and brick shops. And I'm just amazed at how many there are driving around. And it's really important that we're going back to the gig economy. We're going back to individuals and AI and all the technologies that is allowing people to make money from anywhere in the world. And that's definitely that they may not have the financial intelligence and the business systems to create financial success, and that's what it's talking about in the book. Either have systems intelligence or people intelligence, and if you don't have either one of those, no matter what business you're in, you'll eventually come to a place where you either have to grow or you go down. So yeah, it's really important to find those individuals that need that financial intelligence, that team, that system. And one of the opportunities that we have in the system that we have is that we can find that team, we can get financial advice, we can get great advice and great coaching on how to maintain our business and grow it through a potential source like our something we'll go over a little bit later. again, thank you. Anyone else out there?
Outstanding read this morning, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Parker. You are the poster. I don't want to say child. You are the clear example, the champion of our system and our leadership. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome, James. Thank you.
You've got the belts and the trophies to prove it.
Hey, Jameson. Man, what an attitude of gratitude, man. I'm telling you, we got the best leaders. I'd like to hear from Cassandra, Lisa, yourself, Dr. GW, everybody that is here. We're surrounded with great leaders. Zena, Jake Robles, I see his name a lot here. Eva, obviously Lisa Lovey, Monifa, Mr. Wilner, Ron Copeland. Wow, we got the best of the best of the best. And that's what makes our community so amazing because, we all have a story to share and we all get started for something, right? There's a reason that brings us here. But then when we start to find out who we're surrounded with, it's like, wow, we're surrounded with leaders like Jameson, Dr. G.W. Parker, I mean, Dr. G.W. Parker pours into us so much that he brings the light path of his experience in this company, which is his story, and his commitment, his excitement, his level of integrity, hard work. I follow my friend, I call him my big brother in business, right? I follow his footprints because once you surround yourself with great leaders that have great energy, what comes out of their mouth, as we were talking about earlier, you can hear who they are. And once you're able to hear who they are, it's like they touch your heart with their conversations. And that's what Dr. G.W. Parker does for us. Every time he gives us a presentation or a reading or a training, man, he really pours into us. I feel like I've taken a nice shower, warm water after I'm done hearing him. And that's how we should conduct ourselves. So we have an example of leadership here with us, and it rubs off. The people closest to you either make you or break you. But each and one of us that are here, you guys are making us, man. Your stories, you have no idea how inspiring that is. So, Jameson, I want to thank you so much. I guess we're going to take a little